cisgender.
So the way I describe cisgender is that you have to understand it comes from having transgender. Transgender meaning that you have switched from the sex that you were born with into the opposite sex.
Okay.
And cisgender means that you identify as the gender you were born with.
Correct. That's the fascinating thing. You never hear people of my generation, and probably not yours, correct me if I'm wrong, that would say that I'm a cis male.
Yeah.
Or a cis female. Like that's new. And I think that's more of the
fully new.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think bigender means?
Bigender. See, this is where it gets confusing. Because these words, there are so many words that are similar to that. So I think bigender, you identify with both male and female.
Yeah.
Like you're neither or you can be either or.
A person who fluctuates between traditionally woman and male gender-based behavior and identities. So you identify with both genders. Gender fluid is gender fluid. So it's a gender identity best described as dynamic mix of both boy and girl. A person who is gender fluid may always feel like a mix of two traditional genders, but may feel more as a man some days and more as a woman other days. It's very similar. And then even gender binary, the idea that there are only, so that's, I guess that is more of a belief that there's only two genders and that every person is one of those two.
This was supposed to be help to make things clear.
Right.
We're sort of making things...
But isn't to me that's the point? That all of these definitions help but also make it more confusing.
Yeah. Gender expression.
I think it's the way you express the gender you want to express. So if I'm a male, I could still express feminine gender, female gender.
Okay, let me read it. The external display of one's gender through a combination of dress, demeanor, social behavior, and other factors generally made sense of on scales of masculinity and femininity.
Correct.
Also referred to as a gender presentation. So it's displaying what your gender is.
So how I display my gender. Yeah.
Gender, gender identity.
Yeah, I think that's the way you identify. Like you identify as a male or a female or not gender fluid.
It's the internal perception of one's gender and how they label themselves, based on how much they align or don't align with what they understand their options for gender to be.
Oh, so that's
completely confusing. And then this is what I mean. There's so many terms gender. We said what gender fluid was. Now there's gender non-conforming.
Right. So you don't conform to a specific gender and the gender rules. But that's
the same as gender fluid.
Exactly.
Like, come on. Let's
pick one.
Exactly. And that, because you could have 3 or 4 things that mean the same thing.
Yeah. Okay,
gender normative. What would you say?
That you identify as the norm. I have no idea.
Someone whose gender presentation, whether by nature or by choice, aligns with society's gender-based expectations.
Oh my God! So you're what we all thought you were.
Well, you act like a male because that's what you think society sees you as. So you're going to act like a male, or a female, whatever the case may be. So how you're expected to act because you're
right. So you grew up like a man and now you act like a man because you're expected
supposed to. Yeah.
Right. Z. It's a word.
Oh, it's a word.
Yeah. It's not just a letter.
Oh, so
it's Z-E.
It's Z-E or Z-E, whatever.
So it actually refers to pronouns. Pronouns is how you identify in terms of your pronouns.
That's
so
he
or him. She or her.
Right.
So I use the pronouns he, him, which means when I talk about myself or somebody talks about me, I want them to use he went to the store or that, because that's where if a transgender person is talking about it, they may still be body-wise a woman, but identify as a man and want people to refer to them with he, him pronouns.
Right. Some people like to be called they.
Exactly. They use the pronouns they, them.
And I didn't understand that. But, you know, this is why this is important, because so what does that, why, how would you be, you're a singular person. Why would you be called a they? The reason is because I can identify as both he and she.
Yeah, they don't want to be one or the other.
So it's, when you have two people, it's then they.
But to me, that is because they didn't come up with Z yet. They used they, them, because that's terms we already had, to sort of define something that was brand new. But I think actually Z is a bit more appropriate because they, them implies plural, which is not always the case.
Yeah, but
Z is taking something we already know, he, she, just changing the front letter, which you do anyways for he or she. You added an S or you take away an S. That is the difference between he, she. But Z this definition is pronouns that are gender neutral and preferred by some trans people. They replace he, she, and his, hers, respectively, with he, with Z or zir, zer.
Genderqueer.
And that to me just like covers it all. Like you express yourself, your gender expression is completely whatever you want it to be.
Which is what we say many times, that we use queer because it's an umbrella term.
Yes.
So the definition is a gender identity label often used by people who do not identify with the binary of man/woman, or as an umbrella term for many gender non-conforming or non-binary identities. Example, agender, bigender, gender fluid. Just say what we say.
Gender has really fucked things up.
It totally has. Like I mean, we're not going to go, but gender variant, GYNESEXUal, genephilic, heteronormative.
Heteronormative. That's a good one to bring up, because heteronormative to me means like following the heterosexual norms of society, which would be gender binary, like that there's only two.
So it's like learning a new language, and
totally.
It just takes time. But
this is what labels are doing.
Right.
We have complicated the English language so much with all these new labels, but it's necessary because it's not as simple as it used to be. Like in terms of being one or the other.
But you just said something, and you know what? But I say why? Why do we have to make it so complicated? Why can't it be simple? I mean,
but I think we're in the middle of the struggle. It's the butterfly being like created in the cocoon. He, she, Z is they're struggling right now, because we're struggling right now as a society to try to understand how we move forward and still represent all these new types of people. They've always been there. Like Colette, a beautiful, well-known French author who has a movie out now that Keira Knightley stars in. Amazing movie. She was dating somebody in that show who was a woman but identified as a man in the 18th century. So transgender is not new, but we're dealing with it finally in a new way. So because we had to create language around this new thing, we also needed new labels to describe the in-between of that. Like, it's necessary.
But why do we have to make it so complicated? You know, like we just went through this, and you can see how complicated this is.
Yes.
Why do you have to have so many terms for the same word? You know, if we're trying to get people
to understand
us, and which we are trying to do as the queer network as well, like, let's simplify things.
Right.
It's like, okay, gender fluid. That to me, what a beautiful word. It's
yes.
like, you know what? I can identify as both. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But why then take it to this other level where it's like all these other things?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
There you go. You've got your labels, and there's a lot to use. So
and you're probably more confused than you were before you started watching this.
We also have an amazing new project that we're working on that is going to be coming out soon. We just shot it last week, and it involves, again, a lot of different a lot of different parts of the queer community, which we're really excited about.
It's talking.
Yeah.
Talking. It's having a conversation to help understand, the different parts of the queer community and talking to people in the community. Different, ironically, people who are labeled different things.
Yes.
We are going to be talking. Let's tell people we're going to be talking to gay men, to trans people.
Yep. And also some drag queens.
Some drag queens. We're eventually going to talk to bisexual people.
Yeah.
Gender fluid. So it's this whole. So we can understand all the different communities under the queer umbrella, as we call it. So
thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing to the Queer Network. If you've never been here before, subscribe. That's essential to the next step. Also, hit the notification bell so you stay up to date on everything that we're doing here on the Queer Network.
Exactly.
Get that notification in your inbox.
It's great to be here with you.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. There's a whole section here that's all about the same thing. But it's because there's a lot of words.
Yeah.
So the first one being trans.